In 1861, Abraham Lincoln, the leader of the original Republican Party, during the secession crisis, a crisis like no other in American history, decided forthrightly that he and his party would stand up to secession. They did not acquiesce in secession. Lincoln told his supporters, he said, "Let there be no compromise on the question of extending slavery. If there be, all our labor is lost, and ere long must be done gone." To a Southerner, he wrote, on the territorial question, "I am inflexible." Now, if Lincoln had not stood up to secession, the United States would have been two countries, and a whole different history would have flowed from it. Speed ahead to 1933, when Franklin Roosevelt was inaugurated. He inherited a massive economic depression and 25% unemployment. His predecessor, Herbert Hoover, had taken a kind of laissez-faire approach to the Great Depression, doing very little. Roosevelt energized government. They passed overnight the Banking Act and then a whole series of other enactments that became known as the New Deal, which didn't necessarily save American capitalism, but it certainly made strides in that direction. Roosevelt could have backed off and said, this problem is just too vast and complicated. We can't deal with it. Go ahead to 1965, when Lyndon Johnson supported, after his landslide election the previous year, the 1964 and 65 Civil Rights Acts, especially the Voting Rights Act. Lyndon Johnson, an old segregationist, could have said, "I understand this white supremacy. I was one of them. We can't stop this. I'm not going to get on board for voting rights because it's going to destroy my political party, the Democrats, in the South forever." He was not wrong about that. Think of 9/11, when the United States decided to stand up to terrorist organizations like Al-Qaeda and went into Afghanistan to find Al-Qaeda. What if we had said, this is just too big. This is just too complex of a war that we do not know how to fight. Now, it is not, I repeat, not illegal to be mendacious. It is not illegal to lie about an election you lost. The big lie, in other words, is not illegal. It is not illegal to be ignorant of history or ignorant of law and the Constitution, which the previous president has demonstrated he is. It's not illegal to foment racism with rhetoric, at least, and or behavior. It's not even illegal to cozy up to foreign dictators, such as Orban or Kim Jong-un or Vladimir Putin. What President Trump did in Helsinki, by saying he actually believed Vladimir Putin more than his own intelligence agencies, was not illegal. It might have been politically unwise, but not illegal. It's not illegal to spread misinformation about COVID from the White House briefing room. It's not illegal to maintain over and over that Barack Obama wasn't born in the United States. It's not illegal to be an extreme narcissist. It's not illegal to insult reporters or to insult women by suggestions of sexual abuse. It is not illegal to insult NATO members. I could go on. There are many kinds of behavior that are not illegal. They certainly are impeachable offenses, and this president was impeached twice. Impeachment is a political process, not a legal process. But it is illegal to engage in obstruction of Congress and its proceedings under Title 18, Section 1805 of the Federal Criminal Code. It is illegal under the Section 3 of the 14th Amendment to incite an insurrection against the United States government, as long as it can be proven. It is illegal to engage in conspiracy to defraud the United States in Title 18, Section 371 of the Criminal Code. That criminal code is in part about cheating the government out of money or property, but it's
Also about using deceit, the law says, to obstruct a government function. To violate the Sedition Conspiracy Act, which is Title 18, Section 2384 of the Criminal Code. It is illegal to collaborate with leaders of a mob interested in overthrowing the U.S. Capitol or a procedure of the U.S. Congress, if that can be proven. Wire fraud is very illegal if it can be shown that a former president used enormous lies to raise money from his supporters. It is illegal to participate in a violation of the Espionage Act, which the recent search at Mar-a-Lago at least suggested as one of their background laws. Section 793 of the Criminal Code makes it unlawful to retain defense-related information that could aid a foreign enemy. In Section 1519, destroying and concealing documents to obstruct government proceedings is illegal. And in Section 2071, it is unlawful to remove government records from their appropriate locations and to willfully or unlawfully, that law says, conceal them. Now, last point. We do have dysfunctional institutions, but we shouldn't fear that we have them. It is not illegal to be blameworthy of something, but it is illegal to break laws openly, willfully. We should not fear the virulence of the right-wing supporters of this former president and thereby back off from prosecutions, however long and however difficult they may be. It is fear that drives the argument, it seems to me, that we should not prosecute this former president. We should fear, some have argued, the cross-examination that Trump would be put under in a courtroom. Why would we fear cross-examination? And lastly, why do we fear continuing this melodrama, this spotlight that a prosecution would continue to shine on Donald J. Trump when he has violated, it appears, numerous laws? If we fear prosecuting a former president merely because it continues the kinds of drama, which is his branding, that he so enjoys, then why do we have law at all? If we truly believe in rule of law, we will not approach the prosecution of Donald J. Trump through fear, but through belief that maybe, just maybe, some of our institutions, for example, the justice system, can be put to the service of truth. Thank you.
David, thank you very much. I'm Philippa Thomas. I'm joining Connor in hosting this debate, and we're asking members of the audience to hold your opinions because, of course, we have to hear the other side in this motion to prosecute Trump. We want to invite you to hear the case against, and our speaker against the motion is Rich Lowry, editor-in-chief of National Review, an American conservative news and opinion magazine. Rich writes a regular column for Politico. He appears regularly on public affairs programs such as Meet the Press, is the author also of 3 books, including The Case for Nationalism, How It Made Us Powerful, United, and Free. Rich, you also have 5 minutes to begin your case before I come back and the audience has their turn.
Thank you so much. Well, thanks for Intelligence Squared for hosting. These debates are more important than ever. Honored to be here with David Blight. There's something called Open Courses at Yale, allows you to listen to entire lecture series. I listened to the entirety of one of David's classes on the Civil War, so I'm basically a former student of David, maybe not one of his favorite former students, but a kind of former student. So just to situate myself, I'm a conservative Republican, but I'm opposed to Donald Trump. So don't take my word for it. I'm reading from a Truth Social post by Donald Trump himself a couple of weeks ago, refers to Rich Lowry, who has destroyed the once wonderful and influential National Review, the pride and joy of the legendary William F. Buckley. So I'm not a Trump guy, but I am opposed to this resolution. I think there are three tests. One, did Trump clearly and unambiguously violate the law? Would this be good for the country prosecuting him? And would it serve the extremely important political goal of making sure he doesn't win a nomination again and is not elected president of the United States again? If this resolution fails any of those tests, it should go down. As it happens, it fails all three. So the fact of the matter is, and David alluded to this some, once you get out of the political and moral realm, where clearly what Trump did was abysmal, atrocious, literally infamous, and get into the legal realm, then you're in a zone where inherently technicalities and mincing distinctions matter. It's no longer just rhetoric. These words really count. Key thing, corrupt intent. Almost all the supposed charges that he'd be prosecuted on involve corrupt intent, which means demonstrating that he didn't sincerely believe that the election was stolen. And I hate to say it, I think he is truly fired with a passionate intensity and sincerity on this stuff. I think if you put him on a lie detector test, he would pass it without question, making some of these outlandish claims. Doesn't speak well of him, but just shows that there's no way you're going to establish the requisite intent. Incitement's a word that's been bandied about. Incitement, very specific in U.S. law. It means a clear and knowing call to violence, right? It just doesn't mean being reckless. It means a clear and knowing call for imminent violence. You're not going to prove that. Insurrection, again, you can throw it around. It's good to write in op-eds, but it has a specific meaning in U.S. statutes. Rebellion that can't be put down just by law enforcement, that's not going to apply here. Obstructing Congress. So if it's a crime for members of Congress to object to the electors when the other party's candidate wins a presidential race, then there are many Democrats who are guilty of exactly the same crime, including leaders of the January 6th committee. Yes, it was insane for Trump to think that Mike Pence could unilaterally change the count of the electors on January 6th, but we don't prosecute people for insane legal theories. And then just to underline this point, that technicalities matter once you're in the legal realm, once you're in the courtroom. We all know the call that Trump had in Georgia with the Secretary of State. You got to find me 11,000 votes. If you actually read the transcript of that call, which is what will happen in a court of law, Trump makes it clear he thinks there's a pool of 400,000 fraudulent votes. So he's not just saying go manufacture 11,000. He's saying go find these votes that I know are fraudulent. He has 2 or 3 lawyers on the call with him. People usually don't commission felonies in the company of their lawyers. And the lawyers say, look, we've done fine-grained analysis. We believe there are tens of thousands of fraudulent votes. And the takeaway at the end of the call is, can we have a meeting with you, Secretary of State's office, and you can explain how we're wrong. I'm sorry, no one is going to jail for that call. No one is going to jail for that call. So the legalities really matter, and they're just not here. Now, second test, is it good for the country? No. Whatever we might like, if you saw the reaction to the FBI search and you thought that was over the top and hysterical, just wait. Just wait to he's prosecuted. You think this country is divided now? Just wait until you try to prosecute him. There's a reason we honor Gerald Ford for pardoning Richard Nixon. It's because he got the country out of a box. Now you have people affirmatively saying we need to get into this box, and it will invite retaliation. You prosecute Trump, Republicans win the presidency in 2024, I guarantee you Joe Biden will be prosecuted for something by the Republican-led Justice Department, maybe having to do with the sleazy dealings of his son, Hunter Biden. And then finally, the name of the game here is make sure Donald Trump is not president again. The FBI search was the best day politically he's had in a very long time. If you prosecute him, it'll even be better for him. So in summary, the chant, lock her up, when Republicans were saying that about Hillary Clinton was dumb and unworthy. The same is true of lock him up. This resolution must and should fail.
Rich, thank you very much. Powerful stuff from both of you. And I think this is a good point at which to reveal the results of the poll to see who has the greatest challenge here. And we can say that coming into this debate, for the idea that Donald J. Trump should be prosecuted, 81%. Rich, the challenge is largely yours. What did Mel say?
Things are always darkest before they go completely black.
5% say no, but 14% are undecided. I find that particularly interesting. Now, we are going to bring in audience questions, and I'm just going to remind you that Connor's told you about how to do that, to click on the Ask Question tab. Tell us your name if you want your name to be read out as part of the question. But before we start audience questions, first, a short apology from me. Yes, we do know how to video conference, but mea culpa, my internet fell off the air the minute we started. That hasn't happened to me before in years of actually presenting television from my living room during pandemic. So my apologies to the Intelligence Squared audience. That was me. Let's hope it doesn't happen again. But Connor is safely with you to shepherd you through. Can I pick up just a thought for David and for Rich here, because there doesn't seem to be a real debate between you about the morality of the actions of Donald J. Trump. But we heard from Rich there a very strong case that Donald Trump believes he won. Donald Trump believes there were pools of extra voters that weren't counted. He believes he was swindled out of his second term. David, who are we to say we can judge his psyche, that he's making it up?
We're not judging his psyche, and he's not being put on trial, if he's put on trial, for his beliefs. It is the federal code against conspiring to defraud the United States, where the Georgia phone call, which Rich brought up, would be prosecuted. And in that law, it says using deceit to thwart a government function. Can anybody listen to that call to the Secretary of State of Georgia and say Trump was not making something up? Does it matter whether he believed it? His actions, in all of these cases, his actions are what should be prosecuted, not his beliefs. We would be here forever trying to prosecute Donald Trump for immoral acts. And in fact, immorality isn't necessarily illegal, is it? But actions violating federal law, yes, they are. And to what extent are we going to continue to argue that this man is so disassociated with truth that he is incapable of knowing his own actions?
Yeah, I'm sorry, just as a matter of law, and I know this isn't satisfying, but as a matter of law, any number of these supposed charges do require corrupt intent. And David, even just what you said, deceit. That deceit means a willful effort to mislead. You know it's wrong, you know you're lying, and you do it anyway. And I'm just saying, as a matter of law, look, I don't think it's worse that he believes this stuff. As a moral matter, as a political matter, it's worse. It makes it more important that he should go away and be defeated politically. But legally, it's not just the act, it is the intent. And and again, David, I think, has conceded the point by the use of that word deceit. That has a very specific meaning in the law. And again, I think we both agree about this. We're not talking about morality. We're talking about the law. And the law is often unsatisfying if you are just seeking a moral or political outcome, which I think, and I understand the impulse, which I think a lot of people are doing here, but it's misapplied in the legal realm. It will backfire. You'll end up losing the case. You'll end up losing the case and giving him a bigger victory, which would be just perverse. So don't go down the route in the first place.
But Rich, can I just pick up on this point? Because there is an argument that the case will be lost, he'll gain support, he'll emerge from this stronger. But isn't the point of principle that doesn't make it right to leave him be if there are clearly indictable offenses here?
If there are clearly indictable offenses, which there aren't. So I have a multi-layered argument just on the legalities. I don't think David has made a case. I don't think the case is there. And if you're going to be, you can't be the least bit adventurous or novel in a case that is this consequential. That's just a very bad thing. If he shoots someone on Fifth Avenue, if the Midtown prosecutors investigating shootings in Midtown Manhattan, and it arises that Donald Trump shot someone on Fifth Avenue, there's no doubt, right? And we don't need to know why he did it even. He shot him, okay? Prosecute him. But this is all extremely murky, and a lot of it involves, I'm sorry to say, a lot of it involves intent.
But Rich, you're saying that Donald Trump's intent is only to be judged by some small group of lawyers who were sitting with him when he made that call to the Secretary of State, that he is utterly incapable of knowing his own intent. I'd like to see some prosecutors with him on the stand take him to task about just what he knows and doesn't know.
No, that's not what I said.
Not his
I didn't
psyche.
say...
His psyche is not on trial. His actions are.
Well, again, David, intent matters. So if you say a psyche is not on trial, you're saying intent doesn't matter. As a matter of black and white law and a number of these statutes, the intent does matter. And I'm not saying it's the judgment of a couple lawyers. I'm saying everyone, some of the most compelling testimony in January 6th committee was these insiders saying, Mr. President, it's not there. There's no fraud. Bill Barr, Mr. President, it's BS. And they asked Bill Barr, what did the president say? He didn't accept it. He argued back. He pushed back in every single instance. So again, the legal realm's not satisfying in these respects. I would think a number of people supporting this resolution, they want a certain moral and political outcome. Impeachment didn't work. They're going to this. And he committed impeachable offenses up the wazoo, okay? But you can't prosecute someone for an impeachable offense of this nature. It was a political offense. It was a moral offense against our system. Once you get into the legal realm, it's just a whole different zone. And I'm afraid David hasn't made the case on that.
But Rich, by your logic, if he fired a gun on Fifth Avenue and killed somebody, and then he went in and said, I don't believe I did it.
Well,
I don't believe I did
there's
it.
a dead body, there are fingerprints on the gun, and there's a bullet that can be traced to the gun. There's not murky. It's a clear violation of the law. And if you got him on that, I'm willing to be open to maybe something like that emerges, but it hasn't yet.
I think it says quite a lot, doesn't it? That, Rich, you're saying there would pretty much have to be a dead body on the streets with Donald J. Trump's fingerprints on him.
It would have to be something clear. Yeah, a clear violation of the law. A meeting with the Oath Keepers in the White House the week before. You guys are storming the Capitol. I know about the Capitol. Here's a map. Here's where you guys go. All right. A speech on the morning of January 6th, attack the Capitol. That's what incitement is. The United States has a First Amendment. Incitement is not protected, but is narrowly drawn not to intrude on free speech rights. So you got to say, go attack the Capitol. That's incitement. I'd be in favor of indicting him in a minute on that, but that's not what he said. In fact, he covered himself by saying, be peaceful, court of law. Now you might say, be peaceful, roll your eyes, court of law. And that's the realm you want in. You want to get out of the moral and political realm. You want in the legal realm, court of law. That's going to matter.
There are questions coming in. And actually, I think what I'd like to do is encourage those who are listening, perhaps especially those of the 14% who don't know what they think yet about whether Donald Trump should be prosecuted, encouraging you to bring in your questions. I'm going to start bringing in a few because I think they'll add to the themes that we can kind of bat back and forth and kind of explore a little more. Actually, the first question that came in says, does Rich believe Trump has broken any laws since the start of his successful presidential campaign?
Do I believe he's broken any laws? No. This is the problem, is so often in U.S. politics, and this has been true since Watergate, we want to say because someone did something wrong we disagree with or represented a threat to the constitutional system, it must be a violation of the law. Now, I think the repurposing of the military funding to go to build the border wall was an abuse, was illegal. But it wasn't, it's not a crime the way we're talking about. Barack Obama did the same thing when he rewrote immigration law unilaterally to regularize the status of a bunch of illegal immigrants. That also was illegal. But you wouldn't prosecute Barack Obama for it. You wouldn't prosecute Trump for that. It's impeachable. It's technically impeachable. You want a higher level, I think, of political offense to impeach. But again, just because something's bad, and I thought David was very powerful on this in his opening remarks, it doesn't make it illegal. And if you get it into the legal realm, it's not healthy and good for a country. We should argue our politics out in the political realm. To the extent it gets into the legal realm, we've already seen some of this. It's going to hollow out our legal institutions, especially if you're stretching to get someone because you consider them especially noxious. That creates the predicate for someone else stretching, and you're not going to like it when they stretch to get your side. Don't do it. That's my advice.
Rich,
make the political case, make the moral case. Don't do this.
So, Rich, you would argue that all of the efforts Trump made and his people around him made to get Mike Pence as vice president to stand up and stop the count in the Congress, all of those efforts are just free speech.
Yes, I think they're wrong. They're grossly
I'm not asking you whether they're wrong.
We
can agree that they're wrong. But a president of the United States is organizing his power to get his vice president to stop the count, to stop a legitimate congressional function, is just his free speech and not an illegal act?
Well, as a legal matter, it's not illegal. It's grossly wrong and impeachable. And in fact, he was impeached for it. But would you just, I know you wouldn't prosecute him, but Jamie Raskin, is he guilty of a crime, the Democratic congressman from Maryland, because he objected to electors when, George W. Bush was elected or Trump was elected? That's a crime? Or is it actually part of the process where you have this push and pull over electors and debate about it? And if someone's grossly violates the spirit of the system, you impeach them.
Can I just at this point bring in something that could change the facts, that could change the shape of this debate over the coming days or weeks? And I'm thinking about the Mar-a-Lago raid. David, your thoughts first on whether you believe Donald Trump could be prosecuted or jailed for espionage.
Well, it actually doesn't matter what I believe. If indeed, under the three laws cited in the warrant, we don't have the affidavit yet to know the detailed argument for it. But if in any one of those three laws cited, the Espionage Act, then Section 1519, then Section 27.1 of the Federal Code, if indeed Trump took top secret and beyond top secret documents to Mar-a-Lago all on his own, having no right to do it. Are you hearing me okay?
Yeah,
Yes.
You're fine. Yeah.
Okay. And the Justice Department chooses to go to court. In other words, they indict him and chooses to go to court, and they can demonstrate that, yes, he ordered people to put those in boxes and get them out of here and get them on the airplane in some chaotic situation. He violated the law. So maybe that ultimately is where the case will be made. But I do think the Justice Department has a hell of a lot to work with from the January 6th committee already.
But this approach is a deeply illiberal approach, if you forgive me. Usually what we do, we look for violations of the law, and then we see someone violates them, and then we go after that person. You don't focus on a particular person. Say, maybe I can get him on this. If I don't get him on this, I can get him on that. If I don't get him on that, I can really stretch and maybe get him on this. That's not the way it's supposed to work. And
we didn't even know about this till last week.
You've had legal jurists of both sides saying this is a really bad way to go about it. And the problem you're going to have, we need to know the facts. I mean, the facts are always important. What was going on in Mar-a-Lago, but you can't say James Comey, as I'm not saying you say this, David, maybe you believe Hillary Clinton should have been prosecuted, but you can't say James Comey was a great act of statesmanship to choose not to prosecute Hillary Clinton for her violations of the handling of classified material, and then say we got to get Trump. Those things don't add up. And if you try to do it, you will cause this conflagration because people will not accept the legitimacy of it. They'll think it's unfair and selective. And again, that's getting your politics into the legal realm and destroying your legal system.
Tom asks, and I think this is relevant at this point, David. Tom asks, how do, or perhaps how could Trump voters get on board with prosecution? If you're making the case for prosecution and you're sitting in a room full of loyal Trump voters, David, what do you say to them above all?
Well, I will try to make them talk.
You might feel like you're in the lion's den.
A little uncomfortable.
What's your best argument?
I think Rich is even going to have trouble with those people, especially. They're going to hate him more than me. But I'm going to try to get them to talk to me about facts. I'm going to try to get them to talk to me about questions of truth. And then I'm going to try to get them to talk to me about complicity by the President of the United States in fomenting that mob that attacked the U.S. Capitol. And then if it's about Mar-a-Lago, I will ask them to withhold judgment until the Justice Department, however long it takes them, decides whether to indict, to charge, or not. And if they do, I would simply ask them to read these laws.
to read the actual content of the federal code. And actually, perhaps millions of Americans are reading the federal code for the first time. This is a good historical legal education. I would ask them to simply try to have an open mind, that this is not just an attempt to get Trump. It isn't.
So
we didn't even know about the raid in Mar-a-Lago till last week.